Hello everyone, welcome to HFY Beyond Terror. This channel is all about HFY and sci-fi stories, where humanity's underestimated and then proves...
The circle test, I need the record to reflect something very specific. I did not fight anyone. I did not glow. I did not chant ancient words or summon a meteor or sprout wings. I stood where I was told to stand. That's it. That's the whole scandal. The only reason I was standing inside a luminous ring painted on the floor was because a 7-foot-tall officer, made of slate-gray muscle and bureaucratic fury, pointed at it and said, "Enter the boundary." So I entered the boundary. I'm a cooperative person. You tell me, stand there, I stand there. You tell me, don't move, I don't move. You tell me, reduce respiratory output, I try to breathe quieter like my lungs are a misbehaving appliance. Apparently, that last part was also wrong. The evaluation hall was enormous, an echo chamber of polished stone and humming metal that smelled like ozone and fear, not the sharp kind, the stale kind. Like a room where panic had been held for long meetings. Tiered seating wrapped around the central floor. There were only a few spectators, scattered like bored judges at a science fair. Most looked half asleep. One was chewing something that kept trying to crawl away. The cracks beneath my shoes were not decorative. They were the kind you get when something very heavy has recently had an argument with physics. The officer conducting my assessment paced a slow circle around me. Her nameplate translated into my language with grim efficiency read, Marshall. Vesk, she belonged to a species my exchange brochure called Soren, which felt like the brochure had given up halfway through. Vesk had 4 eyes arranged in a neat rectangle, a long blunt snout with thin breathing vents along the sides, and a tail that moved constantly as if it had its own opinions. Veins beneath her skin glimmered faintly, pulsing with a cool bluish light that made her look like a walking emergency exit sign. I was also told, very firmly, not to stare, but glowing veins. Come on. A holographic panel floated beside her head, rotating through unreadable symbols. She studied it like it had personally insulted her. Remain still, she said. I'm remaining still, I said. You are making noise. Breathing is a noise-based activity for my species. All 4 of her eyes narrowed. Her tail flicked once sharp, impatient. Above us, behind a glass booth, a younger technician hunched over a console with the posture of someone waiting for their career to die. His veins were a jittery teal that flashed brighter every time Vesk spoke. His translator rendered his title as registrar. Paul. He looked like he'd been born stressed. Vesk lifted a hand. Run the scan. Registrar Paul swallowed, made a few quick inputs, and nodded. A low hum rolled through the chamber. Pillars around the painted ring brightened, sending a wash of pale light over my skin. It tickled. I wanted to laugh actually laugh because it felt like standing inside a laser car wash. But Vesk had the facial expression of a person reading an email thread titled Urgent. The hologram beside her flickered. Vesk stopped pacing. And her tail, her constantly moving, twitching, opinionated tail, went perfectly still. I didn't understand the significance at the time. I thought she'd just reached the concentrating portion of her workday. Again, she said. Registrar Paul blinked. Marshall, the scan completed successfully. The results are, again. He looked like he wanted to argue. He didn't. He restarted the process with trembling hands. The hum deepened. The pillars brightened. The tickle returned, slightly more insistent, like the light was trying to take notes about my bones. The hologram updated. Vesk's 4 eyes widened at the same time. I didn't know 4 eyes could widen in unison like that. It was impressively unsettling. That cannot be correct, she said. What can't be correct? I asked. She didn't acknowledge I had spoken. She turned her snout toward the booth. Registrar, explain. Up top, Paul's veins shifted from anxious teal to a color I can only describe as funeral lavender. Marshal. The instruments are calibrated. I verified them this morning. These readings are not. These readings cannot. Cannot what? I said. Am I failing? Is it possible to fail standing? Vesk looked at me for the first time like she was really seeing me. All four eyes locked on my face with the expression you see in documentaries right before something gets eaten. What are you? She asked. Hull, I caught myself. New place. New file. I'm Jonah, human, from Earth. Her breathing vents fluttered rapidly. In the seats, the bored spectators stopped being bored. The wriggling snack eater froze mid-bite. Someone else stood up so fast their chair toppled backward. A third spectator slowly began backing toward the exit like leaving might prevent reality from noticing them. Registrar Paul's voice cracked over the speaker. Marshal. The scan indicates regenerative metrics consistent with Vesk's. Tail began moving again, but not casually. This was not a thoughtful tail twitch. This was a violence tail. With what? Vesk demanded. Paul stared at his console like it was trying to ruin his family. With theoretical classifications, he said. Class 9 anomalies. Silence hit the room like a dropped curtain. I lifted my hand because I'm polite. Quick question. What's a Class 9 anomaly? No one answered. Vesk's hologram rotated, displaying what I assumed was a model of my internal biology. Covered in symbols, numbers, and a lot of blinking red markers. Red is universal. Red means someone is about to have a day. Vesk's jaw tightened. Run physical tolerance suites, she ordered. Paul made a small sound like a startled animal realizing it has been assigned homework. Marshal, I recommend we do not run them. The pillars sang again. Light washed over me, denser this time. Less tickle, more attention. Like being inspected by a spotlight with opinions. When it ended, the booth didn't immediately report. Vesk tipped her head, waiting. Finally, Paul spoke, but his voice had gone flat, the way people sound when their brain has stepped outside. To smoke. Impact resistance exceeds instrument maximum. Toxin resistance exceeds instrument maximum. Thermal tolerance exceeds instrument maximum. Pain response threshold exceeds instrument maximum. He paused, then quieter. Marshal. Everything. Exceeds maximum. Vesk didn't move. Explain, she said. Paul's hands were hanging at his sides as if he'd forgotten he had arms. The maximum is set to accommodate Carrid war forms, he whispered. This human exceeds Carrid war forms. In the stands, several spectators decided they had urgent appointments somewhere else and fled. I nodded slowly, as if I understood any of those words. Vesk's veins brightened from gentle blue to an angry electric glare. The light shimmered through her uniform. This is an error, she snapped. Humans are weak. I mean, I said, we're not that weak. The entire chamber turned to me. I suddenly became aware of my mouth, which had betrayed me. Vesk stared like I just confessed to crimes in 5 jurisdictions. Your species, she said slowly, ingests toxins for recreation. Not everyone, I said. But, yeah. Some people smoke, some drink. Some eat gas station sushi and call it living. Her breathing vents stopped moving. That felt significant. Final assessment, she said. Paul sounded like he was about to cry. Marshal, final assessment. The light came again, warmer now, almost soothing. Then it was gone, and the booth again didn't speak. Vesk's head snapped toward the glass. Registrar? Paul's eyes were unfocused. His veins had dimmed to a dull gray. He raised one shaking hand and pressed a key. Vesk's hologram changed. All the red indicators vanished. The entire display shifted to one color, gold. Vesk's tail froze mid-swing. Her veins surged and turned bright, brilliant white. In the stands, someone screamed, not in fear, exactly, but in the way people scream when their brain fails to fit new information into the folder system. Vesk's voice went quiet. "That is ascendant tier," she whispered. I blinked. "That sounds like a reward?" Paul made a soft, defeated noise into the mic. "Ascendant tier is reserved for the architects." I frowned. "Architects?" Vesk's eyes stayed on me like I was a live explosive. "The beings who founded the Covenant," she said. "The ones who left physical form 10 millennia ago. The ones you call gods." I scratched the side of my nose because my body reacts to stress by pretending everything is normal. "Oh," I said. And then, because my brain hates me, "So, do I get a certificate?" Vesk didn't answer. A pleasant chime echoed through the hall. Everyone went rigid. Even me. In the booth, Registrar Paul stared at his console with the expression of a person watching their entire career fall down a staircase in slow motion. "Marshall," he said hoarsely, "the result was flagged as anomalous, and anomalous results are automatically forwarded to central oversight for immediate review." Vesk's eyes widened again, but this time it looked like pure administrative horror. "Stop it," she snarled. "I can't," Paul whispered. "It already sent." For one heartbeat, the hall was silent. Then the alarm began. Not a loud alarm, a civilization alarm. A long grinding tone that felt like the building itself had developed anxiety. Across the stands, personal devices began buzzing and chiming different species, different tech. Same universal sound of people receiving terrible news simultaneously. A spectator 3 rows up glanced at their tablet, looked at me, looked back at the tablet, and fainted so cleanly it was like someone had turned them off. Vesk did not move. Her veins glowed white-hot, shadows sharpened across her snout. She stared at me with the intensity of someone calculating how much paperwork a single human could generate before lunch. "Human," she said. "Yeah? What did you consume?" "Prior to this assessment, cereal," I said, "and half a protein bar. Chocolate." She stared harder. I stared back. Confused out far away, more alarms began answering ours other buildings, other wings. The sound multiplied like bad news. Spreading. Registrar Paul's voice drifted down, hollow and resigned. "Marshal, I am receiving priority hails from Fleet Command, the Council Chamber, the Theology Directorate, and an entity identifying itself as High Interpreter of Prophecy. They are all asking who authorized enrollment of an ascendant tier organism." Vesk's tail whipped sideways and shattered a glass light pillar. Sparks and fragments skittered across the already damaged floor. She didn't even blink. "I just wanted to find the cafeteria," I said. No one cared. That's how I became a crisis. They left me sitting on the floor for several minutes while Marshal Vesk argued with holograms. And the universe fell apart. When she finally remembered I existed, she turned on me like I was a defective appliance. "Stand." "I'm sitting," I said. "It's going fine. Stand." I stood, because she had the energy of a person who would physically lift me if I didn't. "Have you been altered?" she demanded. "Genetic manipulation? Internal hardware? Synthetic reinforcement?" "I have a dental filling," I offered. Her breathing vents fluttered like she was trying not to explode. "Exposure to temporal distortions? Exotic radiation? Divine intervention?" "I got an X-ray last year," I said. "Does that count as divine?" Vesk looked like she might bite through her own tail. Before she could respond, the hall doors blew inward, not opened, not swung. Dramatically, They failed violently. 15 Soren soldiers stormed in, armored head to tail, veins blazing combat red, weapons trained directly on my chest. Their leader barked, amplified by his helmet. Ascendant entity. You are detained. Under Emergency Protocol 7, do not move. I glanced down at myself. I'm not moving, I said. He's standing. Someone yelled from the back like standing was now a confirmed threat posture. Confirmed. Standing. Maintain aim. Marshal Vesk stepped between me and the firing line, arms spread. This is my hall, she snapped. Lower your weapons. Marshal. The leader said, we have direct orders. I do not care if your orders were written by the architects themselves. You will not vaporize a student in my jurisdiction until I understand why my equipment is reporting nonsense. A new voice cut in, calm and exhausted. The equipment isn't wrong. Everyone turned. A Soren officer entered, and I knew he outranked everyone because his uniform had more metals than fabric. His veins pulsed a steady gold, like he'd color coordinated himself with catastrophe. His translator introduced him as Admiral Soren. He glanced over the hall like a parent walking into a room where their children have clearly attempted witchcraft. His eyes landed on me. So, he said, you're the human. I have a name, I said, out of habit. Soren studied me the way you study a strange insect on your wall, deciding whether it's dangerous or just disappointing. Name? He asked. Jonah. He said it carefully, like tasting a new food. Jonah, do you have any idea how many communication arrays have crashed in the last 10 minutes? I've mostly been sitting, I said. So no. 14 channels, Soren said, including the Theology Directorate's priority line, which has not experienced an outage in 600 years. From somewhere outside the hall came a distant, overlapping roar crowds, alarms. Panic. Soren clasped his hands behind his back. The High Interpreter is having what is being described as a spiritual malfunction. 3 council members demanded emergency sessions. The Carrot Envoy has requested permission to witness you in person before the Cosmos corrects its mistake. That sounds threatening, I said. It is, Soren replied mildly. For them. They consider it a compliment. Vesk bristled. Admiral, this is clearly a mechanical failure. Humans are baseline. They perish from mild dehydration. Agreed, Soren said. Which is why we will be conducting a full biological analysis. He looked at me. You will come with us. Do I have a choice? I asked. He considered. Technically. If you resist, these soldiers will attempt to subdue you. Based on your metrics, you would likely injure or kill most of them by accident, which would create a remarkable amount of documentation. I looked at the soldiers. They looked at me. Several had begun sweating, which I hadn't realized was possible for a reptile-adjacent species. I'll come, I said. Excellent, Soren said. As if I'd agreed to a lunch meeting, they escorted me through the Academy's main concourse, and that's where I saw the true scope of what standing in a circle had done. The grand hallway was usually according to the glossy pamphlets full of students from dozens of worlds. Holographic banners floated overhead. Polished floors reflected ceiling lights like water. Today it was chaos. Aliens ran in every direction clutching screens. A crystalline group huddled in a corner, their bodies chiming in what sounded like mass hysteria. Something enormous and scaled stood frozen in the middle of the walkway, staring at me so hard it forgot to blink. I walked past, trying to look like a normal exchange student and not like a theological disaster with a backpack. People are crying, I muttered. You have invalidated multiple foundational assumptions about life, Soren said without looking at me. Crying is efficient. Halfway down the corridor, a small furred alien hurled itself at my feet. It was maybe 3 feet tall. Bright blue. With huge eyes and trembling hands raised toward me, its translator crackled. "Great One, acknowledge your servant." I panicked. "Please don't do that. I cannot rise until blessed." "I bless you," I said quickly. "Sure, blessed. Please stand up." The creature burst into tears, happy tears, and began wailing praises, loud enough to draw a crowd. 2 soldiers physically removed it, and it kept trying to touch my shoes like they were sacred artifacts. Soren sighed. "That will continue," he said. "Can we walk faster?" I asked. "We can," he said. And we did. The analysis facility was colder than the hall, white walls, clean lines, equipment that hummed in a way my teeth could feel. They asked me to remove my shirt. They scanned me with handheld devices, hovering, drones, and one instrument that looked uncomfortably like an aggressive needle. Technicians murmured to each other. "Bone density is abnormal. Cellular repair rates, this cannot be correct. Pain receptors appear, what is this?" One leaned toward another. "How does it register injury?" I raised a hand again. "Usually the blood," I said. "Or, like, the weird angle. If your arm bends wrong, that's a clue." They stared at me like I'd explained fire. The lead technician approached Soren with a tablet. They spoke in low voices. Soren's gold-lit veins flickered. "You are certain?" he asked. "We ran it 4 times, the technician said. "There are no modifications, no enhancements, no foreign material. The human is human, Soren's." Eyes moved to me. "Then explain the assessment hall readings," he said. The technician hesitated. "Admiral," they said carefully, "I believe the readings are accurate. I believe our assumptions were inaccurate. Humans are not fragile. Humans are inconsistent. They sustain damage that kills other species and continue functioning. They consume toxins recreationally. They heal fractures. They exist in constant internal conflict and describe it as normal." Soren stared at me. I shrugged. "I had pneumonia twice as a kid," I said. "I broke my arm falling off a bike. I'm mildly lactose intolerant, but I eat cheese anyway because cheese is worth it." Soren closed all 4 eyes. When he opened them again, his expression had changed from skepticism to a kind of exhausted acceptance, like a man learning gravity was optional. "Contact the council," he said. "And someone find this human. Food. A beat. Immediately." One of the technicians blinked. "Admiral, why?" Soren looked at them. "If his species can weaponize its own digestive system," he said, "I would prefer not to discover what happens when one becomes hungry." They brought me a sandwich. It glowed faintly. I didn't ask questions. I ate while the galaxy screened, on a wall display. The council session devolved into shouting. "We cannot reclassify an entire species from one specimen. The metrics are consistent. If one human registers as ascendant, we must assume all humans. There are billions of them." The theology directorate demanded explanations. Someone invoked prophecy. Someone else fainted. No one helped them because everyone else was too busy having existential collapse in public. Registrar Paul appeared beside me, looking less dead than earlier but still haunted. In his hands was a tablet. "I reviewed your species record," he said quietly. "Cool." He looked at me like a person watching a documentary about a predator and realizing they live nearby. "You detonated nuclear devices on your own world." "Yeah," I said. "We had some issues." "You invented organized warfare before formal writing. That tracks. You exposed yourselves to vacuum and radiation intentionally. Your response to lethal environments was to send more of your kind into them." I took another bite. "Space is neat," I said. Paul sat down hard, tail curling around his legs. "My entire academic specialization is threat classification," he whispered. "I studied carried war forms, void organisms, crystal empires. I believed I understood biological danger. He looked at my sandwich like it offended him. And your species plays games where you collide at full speed for entertainment. Football, I said. Also hockey, but I prefer basketball. Paul stared at me for the first time. His eyes held something other than panic. Maybe respect. Maybe terror wearing respect like a costume. I think your species is the most dangerous thing we have ever. Misfiled, he said. I swallowed. On the display, the council's shouting turned into something that looked suspiciously like a fist fight. Hey, I said to Paul, is there more of this sandwich? He stared. Then he started laughing. Sore N. Laughter, it turns out, comes out through their breathing vents, this wheezing, whistle-like sound that somehow still felt like genuine amusement. I'll get you more, he said, still laughing. I leaned back against the sterile wall, sandwich in hand, while an interstellar government dissolved into chaos over the fact that a human could stand in a circle and accidentally become a theological incident. Here's the thing they don't tell you about being misclassified as an ascendant tier entity. No one offers you a chair.